the shame. It says in those verses that she had been to all the doctors. She had spent everything that she had trying to fix this problem, and it had only gotten worse. So then so as we go through that, toward the end of those verses, it talks about how she knows Jesus is coming. And if she can just reach down, if she can just fall down and touch the hem of his garment, that she will be healed. Well, when she does that, it is so slight that she's in a crowd, and even the disciples who are around Jesus, he says, "Who just touched me?" And they're like, "Jesus, are you kidding us? All these people that are crowded around you, and you want us to know who specifically just touched your robe?" So that could be anybody around her. But in those verses, it says that she had so much faith that she knew that she didn't need Jesus to touch her. She simply needed to come to him and touch him, and that she would be healed. And what does Jesus say? He said, "Because of your faith, you have been healed." And she instantly felt the healing. So in this story, what did she have that she was carrying around that she finally had to give into, that she had to yield? It was the shame that she was carrying around. It was the shame of this infirmity that she had been carrying around, that publicly everybody around her, shamed her for, because it was something that she couldn't really help, something that she couldn't control, but it was something that nobody else had been able to help. She depended on doctors and her money, and it only gotten worse. But when she touched Jesus, it was instantly healed. The next one that we're going to talk about is in John 4. And now this is the story of the woman at the well. We've heard the story of how she was a Samaritan woman. She was there at the well in the middle of the day. And Jesus came along. He was thirsty. He was tired from his travel. So he was needing water from the well. Again, something to remember, to realize about this. First, she was a Samaritan. Samaritans and Jews, if you remember, we've talked about this before, they did not get along. In fact, it was it wasn't almost, it was culturally wrong for a Jew to talk to a Samaritan. So the Samaritan woman at the well, why was she there in the middle of the day? Another important part of this story. Well, Jesus says in these verses that you are the wife of, or you have had 5 different husbands. You have been with 5 different men. That, again, in Jewish culture was very taboo, very frowned upon. So she was there during the middle of the day, which is the hottest part of the day. She had to make the trek from town out there to get her water, because that was the only time of the day that she was allowed to go out to the well, because all the Jewish women would go first thing in the morning while it was in the cool of the day. They would get their water and take it back for their day of cooking and washing and so forth. So that was the only time she was permitted to go to the well, because nobody else would be there. So like the woman with the hemorrhage, she's not carrying really around shame. She's been condemned. She's carrying around the condemnation of everyone around her because of choices in her life that she has made. It doesn't matter that, maybe she's a different person now, or she regrets the choices that she made. All they know is the fact that you have done this, you're condemned, and we're not talking to you. We don't even want to be around you. She's a social outcast because of lifestyle choices. And in the eyes of those around her, there was no redemption. But then we see Jesus, again, who, if you think about it, very human qualities in this passage. Do we ever think about Jesus being tired or thirsty from traveling? He's Jesus. He makes it rain. He can bring water to himself if he wants to. We don't ever really think about that, but Jesus was tired and he was thirsty and he was hungry. He stayed at the well while the disciples went to town and bring back food and water. So again, we see we see this story playing out of the world rejecting somebody and Jesus being willing to come and sit. Here's my favorite one. And it's kind of funny because Cade used to talk about this a lot when he was little. He wanted do a play at Christmas or something about this. Think about James, the brother of Jesus. Now, there are no specific verses I'm going to use for this. How many of us in here have a brother or sister or multiple brothers or sisters that are very competitive with each other? How would you like to have to compete with Jesus on a daily basis? I can hear it now. Why can't you act more like Jesus? He never gets in trouble. Jesus gets straight A's at school. Why can't you be more like Jesus? Jesus washed the dishes. Jesus fed 5,000 with just a little loaf of bread, and you can't even bring home anything for us to eat. Can you imagine being James? Wow. I'd have left like when I was 8. Saddle up and get the donkey, and we gone. Peace out. Y'all can have Jesus. He's your favorite. We know. But what did James do? If you look, it even says when Jesus started his ministry, James and the other family even rejected his teachings because they were so devout. They were so dedicated to the Jewish religion and customs that they didn't at first. And he was their brother. He knew Mary. I mean, they knew where he came from. They knew he was the Son of God, but even they found it hard to believe what he was preaching. But in the end, James became one of the earliest disciples of Jesus. He was one of the first to follow Jesus, to be dedicated to be one of the 12 that would follow him from then on. In fact, there were 2 Jameses, so I may have this incorrect, but he became one of the sons of thunder. There was John and James who were kind of, if you think about it, they were the bouncers for the 12 disciples, it seems like. You know, when something was getting ready to go down, they were ready to go down with it. So what did James have to submit to? What did he have to yield to? Don't you think there's a lot of pride in that, to think, he's my brother? Here we are growing up in the same household. We got the same mama, different daddies, obviously. But I'm supposed to submit and yield to him in the fact that he is all-knowing. He is the only perfect, sinless person to ever walk on this earth. And now I have to follow him and learn from him. What kind of pride did he have to crush in order to submit to following Jesus, to learn from him, to learn the right way to live? Now this is one that gets me sometimes. I'm actually going to read this one. This is in Luke, and y'all know you're going to know this story too as soon as we get there. But it's Luke chapter 5, 17 through 39. Luke, sorry, yeah, 5. I was looking in 17, 5 through 39. We were fixing to be here for a while. Read 5, 17 through 39. It said, as some men were carrying on a bed a man who was paralyzed, and they were trying to bring him in and to set him down in front of him. But not finding any way to bring him in because of the crowd, they went up on the roof and let him down through the tiles with his stretcher into the middle of the crowd in front of Jesus. Seeing their faith, he said, friend, your sins are forgiven you. That was only through verse 20. Wrote it down wrong. Anyway, so think about that. You have a man who's paralyzed, laying on his mat. He has 4 friends. And these aren't just friends. As Jeremy says, these are ride or dies. Because can you imagine having one of your friends laying on a mat, on a blanket, on a quilt, and there's 4 of you, each of you holding a corner, and you're trying to get him to Jesus. And it is so crowded that the only way that you know you can get him to Jesus is y'all got to figure out how to get him up on a roof, dig a hole through the roof, and let him down in front of Jesus in that house. If we really think about it, how many of us right now could name 4 friends I'm trying to think of 4 friends that could carry me on a blanket. Think about those friends, and then think about what Jesus said. He didn't say, like he had already told the woman who touched his garment. He said, because of your faith, you have been healed. What did he say right here? He says, because of their faith, you have been healed. How many of us are walking out there right now that we're willing to put in that hard work to get dirty and sweaty? Because we're in the Middle East here. It's hot. They're in the desert. And back then, it wasn't like a roof that we're thinking about now. It was made out of mud and thatch. So when they got sweaty and they started breaking through that roof, it got pretty dirty and messy. But they were willing to carry their friend up onto the roof. They couldn't just break out the cordless to walk and cut a hole. But to put in that much time and effort to carry their friend up to be healed by Jesus. Because of their faith, you have been healed. Think about it. 4 friends right now that you could count on to do that for you. And finally, the last example of this is, no, 2 more, sorry. Acts 5. See, y'all knew I was going to get Acts back in here somewhere, didn't you? We hear the story of Acts 5, 1 through 11, the story of Ananias and Sapphira. So if you remember this story, it's where this is the time that the church was beginning. People were selling all that they had, giving all the money to the church so they could help out everybody. Well, Ananias and Sapphira were going to be smart. They sold everything, but then they kept a little back to themselves. They weren't willing to depart with everything. They had to hold on to some of that money for, that rainy day, that tough time, where they could have security with that money stashed up somewhere. They were unwilling to give everything that they had to the church. And even when asked about it, yeah, that was everything. That was all of it. Trust me. It even says in there that even with the knowledge of his wife, Ananias still said, yeah, that was everything. And even when Peter questioned him, Ananias, why did you do that? You know that was not right. What happened to Ananias? He dropped dead right there. It doesn't say from what. He didn't have a heart attack. He didn't die of grief. I tend to believe that it was Jesus saying, it was the Holy Spirit. All right, you lied. Sorry. You don't need that money. How many of us can we think of? We have faith in God. We believe in God. We trust God until it becomes completely all on Him and not the security that we can put up for ourselves for those rainy days where God may not give me exactly what I want or may not give me fast enough what I want. So it was that greed or the not yielding to the greed, the not giving in to the greed and giving it all to God. And then the last example that I have here, so far we have shame, condemnation, pride, hard work, greed, and the last one is the story in Luke 10, 38 through 42, where we have Jesus visiting his friends, Mary and Martha. Now, we've heard this story, a lot of us, that they went in. Martha was, she had to get the house ready. Jesus was coming. We're having guests. She was busy cleaning. She was busy in there cooking, preparing the meal. She was busy getting her house in order, ready for Jesus. What did Mary do? Mary simply submitted and sat at the feet of Jesus because she desired to be so close to Jesus at his feet. She didn't care what the house looked like before he got there. So Mary was more worried about what the world said. She was more worried about the standards that society had at that time for what it should look like when a guest came. But this was not just any ordinary guest. This was Jesus. So aren't we kind of that way with religion these days? We need to make sure that everything is in order before we find Jesus, before Jesus gets here. when in fact, we should let Jesus get our house in order after we come to him. You know, we need to get to Jesus. Jesus will put the house in order. If you're having problems in a marriage, go to Jesus. He can fix your house. You having a problem with the kids, go to Jesus. He can clean your house. And I say clean your house, I don't mean he's going to empty it and kick them all out. But we're so worried about the world and the religious and the standards of the world that sometimes we get caught up in trying to meet those before we meet Jesus. We're willing to submit to Jesus. So why do I bring up all of these things? It's, shame, condemnation, pride, just the hard work of being a friend, greed, and religion. The reason I say this is if we look at another story, all these things are things that we have to be willing to yield to God, to give to him, to surrender to him, to fully be submissive to him. There's things that hold us back. There's things in each of us in here that each week we're fighting, we're struggling with. Sometimes it affects not just us, but those around us. So I think in John 5:5, this is where the man was at the pool of Bethesda. Again, he was crippled, but he had nobody. He sat there each day at a certain time when you were supposed to go into that pool for healing. And Jesus comes upon this man, and he says, Jesus looks down, and he says, the man tells him, sir, I have no one here. He said, I want to be in that water, but I have no one here. Everybody steps over me. They walk by me. They don't see me. The thing about that is those were all Jewish people. It was right outside the synagogue. All those were supposed to be good, God-fearing Christian, believers looking out for others around them. But each day for 30 years they had stepped over and walked around him. Nobody was willing to help him get in the pool. And Jesus looks at him and he says, do you want to be healed? Why is that question, do you want to be healed? Why is that important? Because there's oftentimes we may not want to be healed. Think about it. Why would we not want to be healed? The first one may be a lack of faith. Well, what if I ask and it doesn't happen? So sometimes it's easier for us to sit here and think, okay, if I don't ask and God doesn't do it, then God is not real. So right now, it's a shallow faith. I believe in God as long as I don't ask too much out of him. I believe in God as long as I don't have to trust him on a deeper level. I believe in God as long as I don't have to depend on him. Or it's the fact that we've been disappointed by so many people around us that we find it hard to trust Jesus. We've been disappointed by so many Christian people around us. We've been sitting there at the fountain for years and nobody has seen us. We've been sitting there for years and nobody who claims to know Jesus has offered to help us. Nobody's offered to help us get in the pool. Nobody's offered to help us. And we don't want to be disappointed with God because we have made those people God's representative and not God. I heard a phrase this weekend and it has stuck with me. Dent Wiggins, who just passed away, he used this saying. His son just got it tattooed on him. It said, delay is not denial. Just because God may not be answering you right now does not mean God doesn't want it for you. It may be because he has something greater for you planned between A and B, or between A and C. You've got to get to B before he's going to give you C. Delay is not denial. Number two, this is another one. This is kind of, why do we not want healing? Why do we not want to be healed? Maybe it is our lack of desire for others. We don't want to be healed because we're selfish, maybe. Because if we're carrying around something that we don't want to let go of, it affects everyone around us. Um, how are circumstances affecting those around us, or even the people that are around them that they could affect because of us? Just think about it. If we're carrying around the condemnation and guilt of sin, we're going to be far less likely to be open to the joy and the peace that God gives than we would be if we would just submit that to Him and be free of it, to be cleansed of it. So others that might be around us that need to see the joy and peace of what it means to be a Christian, they're seeing the gloom and doom. And, I was in a church one time, and the preacher called, he said, you look around at all these new churches that are growing, and you just see excitement. He said, then you see all of us, and he used it there in the church. He said, then you see all of us, the frozen chosen. He said, we come in here and we sit here and we go through the bulletin. We sing 3 songs. I preach for 25 minutes because heaven forbid I go over 12 o'clock, and then we go home. He said, I don't blame people for not coming here. Why would they want to? Do we represent the joy of Jesus? Do we represent what it means to be loved by Jesus? That's what I mean by we could be affecting those around us who are looking for something. They're looking at us as the chosen people of God, and they're thinking, why do I want to be a part of that? The third thing that we look at, have some of these things become our identity? Has the place that we're at become our identity? And what do I mean by that? It may even have become a benefit to us. I have a friend who, he told me the story one time about his mother. And it is an awful story. She was, her father was abusive. Her mother packed him up and left him one day, and they moved to a new house. And they eventually had to end up, so she was a single mother back in the 60s. She woke up one morning when she was 13, and she was walking through the house, and she couldn't find her mama. She was walking through there, and she found her mother that night. She had committed suicide with the 2 kids in the house. At 12 years old, this girl had a mother committed suicide, a father who was a drunk and left them, and she had nobody. She had to go live with her grandparents. Well, from that day forward, she allowed that to become her identity. She learned that she could really use that to her advantage. People felt sorry for her, and she enjoyed it. She reveled in the pity. No, you just got to expect that from her. You know the life that she's had. She used it for an excuse for everything. She's now in her late 60s or 70s, and guess what? She's still walking in that same identity. If there's something that she can't do, my knees just hurt. Everybody's knees hurt when you're 70. They make a spectacle out of everything because that has become their identity, and it's what's got them through life. She's benefited from it. So what in our life are we that we should be letting go of, that we could be using for the glory of God, but we're using it for the benefit of us? God puts us in situations, and we're not always going to have everything that the Joneses have. I haven't met the Joneses yet, but when I do, I want to see how much they have because everybody's always trying to keep up with them. But it's kind of like, I don't have what they have. God, why? You put me in this situation. I'm doing everything that you want me to do, but yet here I am suffering. God never promised us the biggest house and the boat, Braves tickets every weekend, trips to the lake, beach vacations. He never promised us that. He promised us eternity in heaven. And I said, I don't know what the Joneses have, but I don't know if they go into heaven. So So, am I making sense as to we're using those things that God wants to free us from to our benefit instead of His glory? Imagine if we turn that around and say, God, I've committed to do this for you. You've put me in this place. And thank goodness that I don't have all the trouble that comes with having so much stuff that I'm having to keep up with it, that I'm trying to manage it. And it keeps dragging me down. There's a lot of stress in having stuff sometimes. There's a lot of freedom in having Jesus. So the second thing that we do is we yield to God. What does that look like? How do we yield to God? Well, I think it's 2 Chronicles 7:14. It says that if my people that call me by my name will call upon my name, I will heal their lands. I'll cleanse them and heal their lands. You'll have to look at it specifically. If we call upon His name, He will release us and cleanse us. We may claim to be Christians, but we're still holding on to junk in our lives. God already knows. We just have to let it go. You know, yield means to let someone go before you. There's a song, and the opening words are, "You know before I go." I don't know if that's Francisca Battistelli or it's somebody like that. It says, "You know before I go." So before we ever go anywhere, God's already been there. He already knows what's going to happen. He already knows what's going to happen if we go there for Him or for us. We always hear that God has a plan, and whether we're going to be a part of it or not, His plan is still going to happen, right? He's not going to go before you. God's already been before us. He went to hell and got the keys to death. He's defeated Satan. He's already won the war. We don't even have to fight the battle. We just have to be on the right team. Put on God's armor, right? We hear that. But we have to yield our desires. We have to yield our plans. We have to yield what we want in order for His plan to take place. If you think about it, when we're saying the Lord's Prayer, how does that prayer close? Yours is the kingdom, yours is the power, and yours is the glory forever. What does that mean? Yours is the kingdom. This kingdom, this place that we're living, God created it, right? He created it in 6 days. Actually, if you take us out of the picture, He made it in 5. Everything that we do is a part of His kingdom. Everything that we're in, when we're submitted to Him, is His kingdom. It's not our kingdom. It's not for us to rule. It's not for us to reign. It's to submit those desires and those plans and everything that we want in our life, even the desires that we have for our kids, the plans that we make for them, we have to submit to God and let Him take control. And as a parent, that is hard. That is tough. You know, if it was up to me, they'd all be doctors and I could retire in a few years and they could take care of me. But that's not God's plan. At least I don't think so. So it has to not be our kingdom. Our kingdom, we oftentimes, is our little house, and sometimes even our job or our business, or some of us even want to make our church our kingdom. That's not it. The kingdom is just our life. It's everything that goes on around us. It's His kingdom. Yours is the power. Oh, let's not get into that, because power is important, right? Power is control. And we like to have control in our lives. We like to know what's going on. We like to be able to plan. We like to be able to dictate. But the power is God's. Like, it all goes back to God's plan. What does He want for us? What does He want? What does He desire? What is His plans? It's not ours. We don't have the power. And yours is the glory. been serving in KK faithfully for 2 years and I don't get any credit. It's not my glory. What in the world's going on? The glory is God's forever. It's His glory. Everything that we should do, everything that we do is for His glory. Oh, I hear the music. Here's a verse that I have just found. Ecclesiastes 5:2. It said, God is in heaven and you are on earth, so let your words be few. That is in the NIV version. The BKC version, which is me, says, just shut up and listen. You like that, Craig? But isn't that what it says? God's in heaven. He's on the throne. He's the power. You're down here on earth. So just shut up and listen. They can't put shut up and listen in the Bible. That's not very gracious, I don't think. So what is the result of all this? Finally, the third meaning. What is yield? What we talked about. What do your crops produce? What fruit is produced? If we will yield to the desires that we have, if we will yield the things that we're carrying around that keep us from fully being all in for God, whether it's the shame, whether it's the condemnation, the pride. Another word for the four friends that were willing to put in the hard work is for us to yield to laziness. Be willing to get dirty with somebody. You know, when we're friends of the world with people, we love getting in all the gossip. As they call it today, they love spilling the tea. But when it comes to the spiritual side of it, of really getting in there with your friend and getting to the bottom of what's going on, and getting them to the spiritual side of, well, I hate to tell you, but you're wrong. What you're doing is wrong. Here's what Jesus says. We're not as willing to get into that dirt as we are in the worldly dirt. The pride of yielding of, it's not my power, it's not my kingdom. When we're willing to yield to that, what do we produce? Jeremy talks about it all the time. When we do that, we begin to see, even it's in the scriptures, it's named the fruit of the Spirit for a reason. You cannot yield fruit until you submit and surrender anything that's hindering that relationship. I am the vine, you are the branches. Over and over we see this metaphor of how we're supposed to produce for Jesus, how we're supposed to yield. So we have the fruit of the spirits, our love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. You know, how can we have love when we have pride, when pride's in the way? We can't submit to others and help them out if we don't love them. There is no joy where there's shame and condemnation. There is no kindness where there's anger and rage. There is no goodness when everything in us is fighting against the goodness of God. You know, how can there be gentleness when you're always angry and ticked off because you're not getting what you deserve from God because you're out here in your kingdom and you're wanting the glory? It doesn't happen. And finally, self-control. I saw it on, as much as I hate social media, I saw it this morning. It says, imagine you're carrying around a cup of coffee and somebody bumps into you and spills the coffee. Why did coffee come out of the cup? Because coffee was in the cup. You can't have tea come out of the cup when you put coffee in it. You can't have orange juice come out of the cup when you're putting coffee in it. So when the cup was bumped or it was shaken, what comes out of it was what was in it. So where does self-control come in? Because when you get in those situations of where you're getting bumped around, you're getting thrown around, and you get knocked around, what is in you naturally is what's going to spill out. Because we can decorate the outside of that cup. Lord knows now we can buy 58 different colors of a cup with a handle and a straw the size of a 5-gallon bucket. I mean, I can't figure it out. I towed in the groceries because they can't carry groceries, but they can carry around 48 gallons of water at one time. But my point is, we can make the outside of the cup look as pretty as we want to, but it's what's in the cup that's going to come out. So whatever is in that cup, whether it's Coke and it fizzes and bubbles up, or whether it's just water, Jesus is the living water. What should be in our cup? Peace, gentleness, kindness, love, self-control. It's those fruits that we will yield if we're yielding to God, if we're yielding to God, if we're yielding to Jesus, if we're surrendering those things in us. And the hardest part is those things we don't want anybody to know, because that getting dirty with somebody is not often on times of us going to them. Sometimes it's us going to somebody with our stuff, with our dirt, with our junk. But I know there's 4 friends in this room right here. There's 4 people that'll be willing. Find one person that's willing. Jesus is willing. Because what did he say? Because of your faith, you have been healed. So this morning, think about what is that thing in our life? What is that thing that's holding us back? What is that thing that we're afraid to give to God? What is that thing that has become our identity, whether we like it or not? That's holding us back from really being obedient. That's really allowing us to serve God, to have that relationship with Jesus. We hear about all the time that relationship. How many of us in here can be married to our spouse and not have a relationship with them? How many of us go home and we sit down and our kids just walk by and we never speak to them? We don't have a relationship with our kids. How many of us don't have a relationship with people at work, with our friends? You can't have interaction with somebody and not have a relationship. So this morning, as Patrick plays the song, and God, just shed those things that might be holding us back. I don't know what else really to say. It's just one of those things that really gets me, that gets in me of what is holding us back. God wants to see us move. He already knows. He already knows. We just have to admit, if we will humble ourselves, that's what it says in 2 Chronicles, if we will humble ourselves, call on his name, he will heal our nations. He will heal us. He will cleanse us. He will stand. Lord, this morning we just thank you so much for who you are, God, for your power, God, for your glory, God, that you allow us to be in your kingdom, that from the beginning of time your plan was for us to be in it, that your plan would never be complete without us in it. God, how humbling that is to think that you who created the heavens and the earth and the galaxies and the stars that have not even been discovered yet, God, that it was necessary for you to place us here. God, this morning, just let us yield to you. Let us search. Let us find those things that are holding us back from you. God, if there's someone in here that we have an offense against that's holding us back, Lord, give us the strength to go to them. God, if there's someone at work, if there's someone outside of this place, God, that is causing a hindrance to us, that is causing us to be to not be obedient to you, God, just make it known this morning, God, that we would be willing to come to you with whatever we have. Give us the faith that if we could just touch the hem of your garment, we know we would be